This is Atomic Biscuits, and I'm your host, BACFA. Hello, friends from around the world. This is BACFA back for another episode of Atomic Biscuits. This is episode 2025-0223, Domestic Terriers. We're going to start out over here at diamondandsilkinc.com. This is, where did $4.7 trillion in untraceable U.S. Treasury payments go? Doge strikes again. I'll leave this link and all the links for the stories covered on my account out at Gab at BACFA. As an optional, frequently blank identifying code was used to execute roughly 4.7 trillion, that's like pterodactyl, in U.S. Treasury payments, making it nearly impossible to track them, according to the Department of Government Efficiency, known as Doge, which was created under President Donald Trump. Federal financial reporting has changed immediately as a result of the revelation, requiring complete openness on these transactions going forward. Doge discovered that in transactions worth $4.7 trillion, the Treasury Access Symbol, the TAS, a crucial financial identification, was routinely left blank. The U.S. Treasury and the monitoring agency of the Trump administration collaborated to close this loophole, requiring the TAS field for all government payments. In addition to continuing to find and remove government waste, Doge has already reported that spending cuts and contract renegotiations have saved taxpayers an estimated $55 billion. We're at week 4, folks. Under President Donald Trump's administration, Elon Musk led the Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, which recently uncovered a shocking discovery about federal spending. The government claims that because the Treasury Access Symbol, the TAS, is frequently absent, $4.7 trillion in payments were processed via the U.S. Treasury without clear monitoring. Shocking. In the federal system, this identifier, which associates government spending with particular budget items, was optional, making it practically hard to track down payments. The TAS field is now required for all government payments, Doge said when it revealed the conclusion on X. The government said, "This is now a compulsory field as of Saturday, increasing visibility into where the money is actually going. It is anticipated that this adjustment will ensure that taxpayer funds are appropriately accounted for and bring a new degree of openness to federal budgets." It's not surprising, I don't think, to anybody that this money has just disappeared into a black hole, right? America's money hole. The disclosure aligns with Doge's overarching goal of eliminating unnecessary government expenditures through contract renegotiations, fraud detection, and regulation reductions. The agency has reported an estimated $55 billion in savings since its establishment by executive order. With the aim of switching to real-time reporting, the agency has committed to updating its financial data twice a week as part of its efforts to make its cost-cutting initiatives completely public. Both admiration and criticism have been directed at Musk's leadership at Doge. The agency's aggressive approach to cutting back on bloated government programs has been praised by conservatives, but its power to access federal data and terminate government contracts has drawn criticism, especially from Democrats. In an effort to prevent Doge from accessing federal networks, attorneys general from 14 states have launched a lawsuit claiming that Doge's executive jurisdiction over financial control is excessive. A federal judge in Washington recently refused to temporarily restrict Doge's access to sensitive data from multiple departments, including the Department of Labor and Health and Human Services, despite legal concerns. This decision is interpreted as approving the Trump administration's ongoing cost-cutting initiatives. At a time when the U.S. national debt is at an all-time high, Doge's most recent revelation questions previous government financial management. The $4.7 trillion in untraceable payments highlights the agency's original purpose and the reasons why the elite in Washington have opposed its control. Again, that's over at the Diamond and Silk website, diamondandsilkinc.com. Our friends over at TheRegister.com posted healthcare outfit that served military personnel settles allegations it faked InfoSec compliance for $11 million. If this makes you feel sick, knowing this happened before ransomware actors started targeting medical info may help. An alleged security snafu that occurred during the Obama administration has finally been settled under the second Trump administration. The case concerns Health Net Federal Services, that's the HNFS, an outfit that provides healthcare services to military personnel, and its parent company, Centene Corporation. The orgs will pay $11,253,400 to settle claims that HNFS falsely certified compliance with certain InfoSec requirements in a contract with the Department of Defense a decade ago. In agreeing to the settlement, neither Centene Corporation nor HNFS admit any guilt, and, per usual with these types of court resolutions, there is no determination of liability. As per usual, the $11 million financial penalty isn't even a slap on the wrist for Centene Corporation, which raked in $163.1 billion of revenue in its most recent full financial year. Centene Corporation did not immediately respond to the Register's request for comment, and I'll update the story if the healthcare giant sends us substantial info. The settlement was made in relation to HNFS's administration of the Defense Health Agency's TRICARE Health Benefits Program, the DHA, the health care plan for U.S. military service members and their families across all or part of 22 American states, covering millions of people and their very sensitive data. Under the government contract, HNFS was required to adhere to certain privacy standards and cybersecurity requirements, according to court documents. Those standards included scanning for known vulnerabilities and patching security flaws in a timely manner, plus submitting an annual report to the DHA that certified compliance with certain InfoSec standards and privacy controls. However, according to the Department of Justice, between 2015 and 2018, HNFS falsely certified compliance with those controls and ignored reports from third-party security auditors. Plus, we're told, the healthcare provider allegedly ignored its own internal audit of cybersecurity risks related to asset management, access controls, configuration settings, firewalls, end-of-life hardware and software in use, patch management, vulnerability scanning, and password policies. This potentially puts millions of data describing military personnel and their families' personal and health-related info at risk. The feds do not allege that any protected data was stolen or lost as a result of the apparent security oversights. That outcome is very fortunate. Indeed, this matter could have ended badly for everyone involved, and considering that healthcare data is a top target for ransomware crews and other cyber criminals looking to steal sensitive info and extort corporations to prevent its release. Safeguarding sensitive government information, particularly when it relates to the health and well-being of millions of service members and their families, is of paramount importance, said Acting U.S. Attorney Michelle Beckwith for the Eastern District of California. When HNFS failed to uphold its cybersecurity obligations, it didn't just breach its contract with the government, it breached its duty to the people who sacrifice so much in defense of our nation, Beckwith added in a Justice Department statement. HealthNet, another Centene Corporation-owned health insurance company, was among the providers whose services were disrupted during last year's Change Healthcare ransomware attack. That massive digital intrusion downed systems at thousands of pharmacies and hospitals across the United States and compromised protected health information belonging to at least 100 million individuals. Again, that is over at theregister.com. Now, I wanted to point you to this article over at theconservativetreehouse.com that reads 900 plus former and current Maine Justice lawfare operatives self-identify. 900 plus career DOJ lawyers signed an open letter in support of ongoing lawfare operations against President Trump and the American judicial system. And the inset here reads, February 17th, 2025, an open letter to career federal prosecutors. Like you, each of us devoted years of our professional lives to pursuing justice on behalf of the American people. Although we dutifully carried out the lawful enforcement priorities of the executive branch irrespective of who headed it, the oath we swore was to the Constitution, not to the President, Attorney General, or any other individual. Our obligations didn't stop at the oath we took to support and defend the Constitution. They included upholding a set of values that have guided the United States Department of Justice for decades. These values are ingrained in the department's DNA and, as exemplified by the principles of federal prosecution, which were written to ensure federal prosecutors exercise their tremendous power fairly, without regard to partisan politics, and in furtherance of the rule of law. As prosecutors, we were rightly prohibited from making criminal charging decisions based on someone's political association, activities, or beliefs, or because of our personal feelings about them. We knew it was impermissible to treat a defendant more leniently just because they were powerful or well-connected, or more harshly because they were not. We were taught to pursue justice without fear or favor, and knew our decisions to investigate and charge should be based only on the facts and the law. We knew these values were more than just requirements in a manual. They were foundational to a fair and just legal system, and we upheld them no matter who was president. Against this backdrop, we have watched with alarm as these values have been tested by recent actions of the department's leadership. Some of you have been ordered to make charging decisions based expressly on considerations other than the facts and the law, including to serve solely political purposes. Some of you have been forced to consider whether your actions will result in the elimination of the public integrity section created in the wake of the Watergate scandal and whose vital work is intended to protect the public from government corruption. Several of you have resigned, and others are wondering what will happen to the department we serve and revere. Put another way, 900 career DOJ lawyers who used Maine Justice as their platform to participate in corrupting and weaponizing the American judicial system for their own financial benefit have now publicly self-identified. These are the legal abusers within the system, the professional gaslighters, lawfare activists, and legally trained abusers of trust who twist, distort, and tear at the foundational fabric of our constitutional republic while claiming moral superiority and cloaking their efforts under the guise of victimhood. They are self-identifying and self-deporting from the system. America is winning again. Again, that's over at theconservativetreehouse.com. As you know, I often talk about my concerns with turning things over to AI, and it could be a tool for good. It could be a tool to kill somebody with. I mean, it's like a hammer. It's a tool. It's not alive, and we give it the power that we permit. So here comes this article from technocracy.news. When AI says kill, humans overtrust machines in life or death decisions. Relying on AI is collapsing reality for all who submit to it. Humans appear to have a dangerous blind spot when it comes to trusting artificial intelligence, and even in its simplest form, the AI maintained remarkable influence over human decision-making. It's beyond dangerous for any society. I want you to come listen to this article. It's about 7.5 minutes over at Technocracy News, technocracy.news. Brownstone Institute has the story Bird Flu is a rerun of the COVID playbook written by Clayton J. Baker and posted on February 18th. Bird flu can be very confusing. This is true because, as is so often the case with our government, those who claim to be trying to solve the problem, our so-called public health and pandemic preparedness experts, are actually the ones who created the problem. What is worse, they are actively seeking to perpetuate it. In this brief article, my goal is to explain what is happening with H5N1 bird flu in the clearest, most fundamental terms. I hope to make it so clear that all our elected officials can understand what is going on and therefore can take action to stop it. The key to understanding the current bird flu panic is this. Bird flu is a complete rerun of the COVID script. There's just one twist. Last time with COVID, the pandemic planning bioterrorists directly blackmailed us by taking away our civil rights in order to coerce us to accept their unsafe and ineffective vaccines. This time with bird flu, the pandemic planning bioterrorists are indirectly blackmailing us by targeting our food in order to coerce us to accept more of their unsafe and ineffective vaccines into our food supply and those who supply it. Here's their playbook. Learn it and you can understand how to put an end to it. So let's review what happened with COVID. 1. Over many years, bioweapons scientists, under the guise of pandemic preparedness, genetically manipulated a bat coronavirus to be both transmissible and virulent in humans. In other words, they created a bioweapon. 2. Meanwhile, they also developed and patented technologies for vaccines against the same virus. In other words, they created the countermeasure to their bioweapon. 3. In late 2019, the lab-manipulated coronavirus bioweapon SARS-CoV-2 was leaked from a lab. 4. While the countermeasure vaccines were rushed into production, public health authorities took advantage of the lab leak by denying its occurrence, while simultaneously coercing governments to impose lockdowns and other civil rights violations on the human population. 5. To perpetuate the lockdowns, public health authorities performed indiscriminate PCR testing for the virus among the population, knowing full well this would generate countless false positives. 6. The authorities used this excessive testing along with media-generated fear-mongering and governmental abuse of power to prolong the lockdowns and the civil rights abuses. 7. The lockdowns and civil rights abuses were used to blackmail the population into mass acceptance of the vaccines into their own bodies in exchange for a return to normal life. Okay, so what is happening now with H5N1 bird flu? A comparison. 1. Over many years, bioweapons scientists, under the guise of pandemic preparedness, have genetically manipulated the H5N1 avian influenza virus to cross classes of animals and even become more transmissible to humans. In other words, they created a bioweapon. 2. Meanwhile, they also developed and patented technologies for vaccines against that same virus. In other words, they created the countermeasure for their bioweapon. 3. In early 2022, a lab-manipulated bird flu bioweapon leaked from the USDA Southeast Poultry Lab in Athens, Georgia. Multiple bird flu leaks have also occurred from other labs. 4. While the countermeasure vaccines are being rushed into production, public health authorities will take advantage of these lab leaks by denying their occurrence, while simultaneously coercing our government to impose mass slaughter of farm animals, creating food shortages for the human population. 5. To perpetuate the mass slaughter and worsen food shortages, public health authorities are performing indiscriminate PCR testing for the virus among the animal population and farmers, knowing full well this will generate countless false positives. 6. Authorities are using this excessive testing along with media-generated fear-mongering and governmental abuse of power to prolong the mass slaughter of farm animals and the food shortages. 7. The mass slaughter of farm animals and resulting food shortages are being used to blackmail the population into a mass acceptance of the vaccines in their food supply in exchange for a return to normal life. This is not conspiracy theory. This is basic pattern recognition. The pandemic planners are operating just like a moderately competent, if unimaginative, high school football coach. If you run a play and it works, run it again. Keep running it until they stop it. How do we stop it? Well, here's how. 1. End the brutal mass slaughter of poultry flocks immediately. This disgusting death wish practice is directly analogous to the deadly and unconstitutional human lockdowns during COVID. It is also an act of biological terrorism. It traumatizes farmers, wastes resources, creates food shortages, is inhumane in the extreme to animals, and does nothing to stop the virus. Let the flocks develop natural immunity. Slaughtered flocks cannot develop natural immunity to a virus, just as locked down human populations cannot either. Sound familiar? 2. End the indiscriminate PCR testing for bird flu in animals and humans immediately. A positive PCR test is like the proverbial grand jury indictment. You can get one on a ham sandwich if you try hard enough. Willy-nilly PCR testing creates innumerable false positives, which fuels the fear porn and hysteria, paralyzes decision makers, and promotes population-wide blackmail. 3. The USDA, that's our food agency here in the States, appears to be acting as a rogue agency. The USDA's leadership needs to be thoroughly reviewed and, well, hauled. All those attached to the pandemic preparedness industry and all those perpetuating the fear-mongering, irresponsible mass PCR testing, mass slaughter of animals, etc., must be immediately removed from the agency. They represent not only a threat to animals and the food supply, but to President Trump's entire second term. 4. The personnel at the CDC need a similar prompt and thorough overhaul. The CDC, while somewhat chastened by President Trump's executive order silencing HHS agencies and benefiting from the departure of former Director Mandy Cohen, is still led by Biden-era appointments whose past resumes raise serious doubts about their willingness to abandon the COVID-era pandemic planning model of public health. For example, Acting Director Susan Monarez, PhD's bio shows multiple deep state connections to the pandemic preparedness industry. Should she remain at the CDC? 5. The USDA Southeast Poultry Research Lab in Athens, Georgia, should be shut down and thoroughly investigated. 6. The Kawaoka Bird Flu Lab at the University of Wisconsin, which has been doing reckless gain-of-function research for decades, and which has had multiple lab leaks, should be shut down and investigated as well. 7. Brooke Rollins, the new USDA secretary, needs to be fully briefed on H5N1 bird flu by honest experts who are not embedded in the pandemic preparedness industry. Individuals such as Merrill Nass and Peter McCullough and his team would both be excellent choices. 8. President Trump should follow through on his 2024 promise to disband the redundant Biden-created Office of Pandemic Preparedness and Response Policy, the OPPR. Mr. Trump's instinct was correct then, and it remains correct now. Number 9. The $590 million bird flu vaccine development contract to Moderna that the Biden administration approved a couple of days before President Trump's inauguration should be canceled. Number 10. The USDA's reported conditional approval of a bird flu vaccine with Zoetis should be canceled. Bird flu vaccination in poultry flocks has been demonstrated in other countries to select for more virulent strains. Furthermore, the CEO of Zoetis has close ties to Pfizer, BlackRock, and the Gates Foundation, all well-established bad actors during the COVID era. Beware, Mr. President. The pandemic preparedness racket isn't as complicated as it seems once one comes to terms with the fact that the arsonists are running the fire department, as they have been demonstrated by DOJ to be doing so in so many other areas of the government as well. We can recognize what is actually happening and apply the necessary solutions. That's over again at brownstone.org for the Brownstone Institute. This guy, Tyler Durden, I don't think that's his real name, over at zerohedge.com has this article this week. CIA reportedly flying MQ-9 spy drones over Mexico as cartel fight nears. U.S. Air Force spy planes have recently conducted signals intelligence, that's SIGINT, operations along the U.S.-Mexico border, while Green Berets from the Army's 7th Special Forces Group have been deployed to a naval facility in Campeche, a Mexican port city on the Gulf of America, for what's described as a training mission. These developments offer a clearer picture of President Trump's emerging strategy to combat Mexican cartels, which have fueled a drug death catastrophe of 100,000 Americans per year. This approach aligns with Trump's designation of these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. The CIA, operating under the Trump administration, has been secretly deploying unarmed, at the moment, General Atomics MQ-9 Reaper drones over regions of Mexico dominated by heavily armed drug cartels, according to a CNN report. The report comes from current and former officials with knowledge of ongoing national security operations, shedding light on what is happening under the cloak of darkness in preparation to disrupt and dismantle drug cartels. Here's more from the report. Some current and former officials say designating cartels as terrorist groups could potentially lay the groundwork for direct U.S. strikes against the cartels and their drug labs in Mexico. The CIA has flown surveillance drones to hunt cartels inside Mexico before, according to a former and current U.S. official under at least one small program that partnered with Mexican authorities. But the more recent flights were communicated to Congress by the Trump administration using a particular notification reserved for new or updated covert programs that the CIA intends either to conceal or deny, a source familiar with the matter said, suggesting that the flights represent a distinct escalation. The notifications made no mention of Mexican partners, the source said. The CIA spokesperson told the media outlet that countering drug cartels in Mexico and regionally is a priority for CIA as part of the Trump administration's broader efforts to end the grave threat from narco trafficking. Director John Ratcliffe is determined to put CIA's unique expertise to work against this multifaceted challenge. There's links to some other articles here. USAF spy plane runs SIGINT operation near Cabo as U.S. preps for potential cartel fight. USAF spy jet flies second SIGINT operation on U.S. border with focus on narco hub. And Border Czar expects kinetic warfare between U.S. troops and Mexican drug cartels. Beyond spy planes and drones conducting SIGINT and other surveillance operations in the region, as well as U.S. Special Forces operators in Campeche, this should all be viewed as the beginning innings of the war against cartels. We suspect financial sanctions could be used to pressure Mexican banks to disrupt cartel financial networks. This is what America First looks like, and Kyle Bass could never be happier. That's over at zerohedge.com. Well, forced retirement comes in many ways. Gateway Pundit reported President Trump goes scorched earth, fires all Biden-era U.S. attorneys. This is not, and I know this always seems to be a hot headline, no matter which president is in location. It's just that this is pretty normal. Most of the U.S. attorneys go at the beginning of the next administration because they need to be acting according to what the administration's priorities are, and you just can't have these folks wielding authority and working against you. President Trump fired all remaining Biden-appointed U.S. attorneys on Tuesday. Quote, over the past 4 years, the Department of Justice has been politicized like never before. Therefore, I have instructed the termination of all remaining Biden-era U.S. attorneys. We must clean house immediately and restore confidence. America's golden age must have a fair justice system. That begins today, is what he posted on Truth Social. Some of the Biden-era U.S. attorneys resigned in a timely manner after Trump was sworn into office, but others have overstayed their welcome. President Trump fired approximately a dozen Biden-appointed U.S. attorneys last week. Quote, a source familiar with the matter told NBC News that one of the fired U.S. attorneys received a letter from Trent Morse, the deputy director of the Office of Presidential Personnel, that read, at the direction of President Donald J. Trump, I am writing to inform you that your position as U.S. attorney is terminated effective immediately, NBC News reported last week. President Trump is beginning to nominate his own U.S. attorneys. On Monday, President Trump announced he is nominating Ed Martin, current acting D.C. U.S. attorney, for the full and permanent term of U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. Ed has led a distinguished career of service, including as a human rights office director for the Catholic Archdiocese of St. Louis, where he supervised legal clinics for low-income residents. He later worked as a judicial clerk to Judge Pasco M. Bowman II of the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals and launched his own successful law practice. He has also invested his expertise in other roles, but always with the same goal of serving his community and creating a brighter future for all, Trump posted on Truth Social Monday. Since Inauguration Day, Ed has been doing a great job as interim U.S. attorney, fighting tirelessly to restore law and order and making our nation's capital safe and beautiful again. He will get the job done, Trump said. That's Christina Lala over at thegatewaypundit.com. Often accused of hate-filled rhetoric that somehow seems a little bit true, there's this story over at jihadwatch.org. Dems warn farmers will be ruined unless taxpayers buy their wheat and send it to Somalia. What else could they possibly do with their wheat? It's hard to defend sending billions of dollars in unaccountable fashion to Afghanistan, Yemen, Gaza, and Somalia. Quote, while U.S. aid is unable to function in Iran, between Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, over $8 billion was sent to Iranian puppet regimes, even without counting the money spent on Gaza. In total, USAID had spent some $18.5 billion on Islamic terror states over those 5 years. USAID has sent $9.3 billion to Islamic terror states collectively responsible for killing over 3,000 American soldiers. What's the counter-argument to that? Oh, here it comes. Quote, farmers ruined. USAID oversees projects such as food aid, disaster relief, and health programs in over 100 countries, with a staff of more than 10,000 and a budget of around $40 billion. Billions of those dollars flowed back into the American economy. Takeaway, call your MAGA rep to demand they stop billionaires from destroying farmers to give themselves more tax cuts. Now, U.S. businesses that sold goods and services to USAID are in limbo. That includes American farms, which supply about 41% of the food aid that the agency, working with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, sends around the world each year, according to a 2021 report by the Congressional Research Service. In 2020, the U.S. government bought $2.1 billion in food aid from American farmers. What will farmers do unless taxpayers pay for USAID to buy their wheat to send it to Somalia? Maybe they'll buy the wheat themselves or have people in other countries buy it. Wheat, rice, and other crops actually are in demand, and if the government has to buy it, then it can use that to lower the price of bread here. Worse still, that 41% statistic admits that most of the USAID's food isn't even bought from America. It suggests we're paying other countries to buy food to send to other countries. Yeah, you just can't make this stuff up. It's the laundry in action out there at USAID. Glad to see that thing was shut down. Our friends over at ArsTechnica.com posted this story this week. Privacy problematic DeepSeek pulled from app stores in South Korea. DeepSeek acknowledges it may have partially neglected South Korea's laws. This is by Lee Hutchinson over at ArsTechnica.com. In a media briefing held Monday, the South Korean Personal Information Protection Commission indicated that it had paused new downloads within the country of Chinese AI startup DeepSeek's mobile app. The restriction took effect on Saturday and doesn't affect South Korean users who already have the app installed on their devices. The DeepSeek service also remains accessible in South Korea via the web. For Reuters, PIPC explained that representatives from DeepSeek acknowledged the company had partially neglected some of its obligations under South Korea's data protection laws, which provide South Koreans some of the strictest privacy protections globally. PIPC Investigation Division Director Nam Seok is quoted by the Associated Press as saying DeepSeek, quote, lacked transparency about third-party data transfers and potentially collected excessive personal information, end quote. DeepSeek reportedly has dispatched a representative to South Korea to work through any issues and bring the app into compliance. It's unclear how long the app will remain unavailable in South Korea, with PIPC saying only that the privacy issues it identified with the app might take a considerable amount of time to resolve. Western InfoSec sources have also expressed dissatisfaction with aspects of DeepSeek's security. Mobile security company NowSecure reported 2 weeks ago that the app sends information unencrypted to servers located in China and controlled by TikTok owner ByteDance. The week before that, another security company found an open, web-accessible database filled with DeepSeek customer chat history and other sensitive data. Ars attempted to ask DeepSeek's DeepThink R1 model about the Tiananmen Square massacre or its favorite Winnie the Pooh movie, but the large language model continued to have no comment. Again, that's Lee Hutchinson over at ArsTechnica.com. I mean, is this not the classic lure? Here is the cheapest thing. This is the cheapest thing. Here, have this thing. It's free. You are the product. I mean, I don't know how much more clearly we could see all the signs. And it's feeding right back to the same fake commercial accounts that control TikTok. I mean, what does it take, people, to understand that these are all sneaky ways of getting at your data, which is quite valuable because they can steal your identity, they can steal your money, they can steal your life. I wanted to wrap up this week with this story. I have talked about this in the past, and I kind of joke about how it really exists, but nobody wants to admit it. And then here it is. And if you go to the Epoch Times link that leaps from this zerohedge.com article, you'll find it behind a paywall. So I wanted to at least sort of show you what's out there. How a U.S. Iron Dome could reshape global nuclear relations. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Star Wars and Ronald Reagan, so this doesn't sound like a new idea. The U.S. Missile Defense Agency is already searching for cutting-edge missile defense technologies after President Donald Trump signed a new executive order calling for an Iron Dome for America. The executive order gave the Department of Defense 60 days to evaluate the U.S. missile defense network and overhaul it with hypersonic weapon sensors, space-based missile interceptors, and other so-called non-kinetic missile defense capabilities. Trump has also tasked military leaders with conceiving new ways to stop incoming threats earlier than ever before, including before they launch. 4 days after Trump signed the order, the Missile Defense Agency published a request for information from arms industry insiders on promising advancements to meet Trump's call for a better missile defense shield. The quick turnaround suggests the Trump administration is urgently pursuing advanced new strategic defenses at a moment of growing U.S. competition with Russia and China. Both nations have made advances in offensive strategic weapons technology in recent years, and the U.S. military has struggled to keep pace. While Trump's order calls for several new missile defense capabilities, a major focus is on evaluating what systems already exist and whether they're deployed in the right manner to protect the United States and forward-deployed U.S. troops and allies. Daniel Fleisch, a senior policy analyst for the Allison Center for National Security at Heritage Foundation, described Trump's order as a holistic approach that expands on capabilities the U.S. military already has. Where are the gaps, and where do we need to develop or invest? Fleisch told the Epoch Times. The launch trajectory of a strategic weapon like a nuclear-armed intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, is generally divided into 3 phases. The boost phase is the initial stage as the weapon burns its propellant at launch. After a ballistic missile expends most of its propellant in the liftoff, it begins its main course of flight towards its target, known as the mid-course. Finally, after reaching the apex of its trajectory, a ballistic missile will fall toward its target in what's known as the terminal phase of its trajectory. The U.S. Navy currently has both land and ship-based variants of the SM-3 missile that can intercept enemy ballistic missiles in space at the height of their mid-course flight. The U.S. Army also has ground-based interceptors for mid-course interceptions. For ballistic missile interceptions in the terminal phase of flight, the Navy has the ship-based SM-6 missile, while the Army has the terminal high-altitude area defense system and newer variants of the Patriot air defense missile system. The mid-course presents the largest window for an intercept, but requires sophisticated interceptors capable of reaching ballistic missiles at high altitudes, including in space. Terminal phase interceptors don't have to reach as high as mid-course interceptors, but it's a narrow and high-stakes window to stop a ballistic missile before it reaches its final target. The boost phase presents an attractive opportunity to stop a missile threat because the missile is less capable of evading interceptors or deploying decoys, but detecting a launch in this early stage is difficult, as is having an effective system in position to stop it. Along with new and improved sensors for tracking the trajectory of weapons throughout their flight, Trump's order envisions a network of space-based interceptors that could stop threats in their boost phase. Weapons researchers have long considered high-powered lasers as one potential option for boost phase interceptions. The United States and Israel have both seen advancements with lasers for intercepting drones and missiles, but more improvements may be needed to effectively counter sophisticated ballistic missiles. Trump's order could potentially renew development for an airborne laser system or boost phase interception, such as the U.S. Air Force's shelved Boeing YAL-1 airborne laser aircraft. Trump's Iron Dome for America takes direct inspiration from the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, a missile defense program Ronald Reagan put in motion in 1983, the Star Wars sequel. President Ronald Reagan endeavored to build an effective defense against nuclear attacks, and while this program resulted in many technological advances, it was canceled before its goal could be realized, Trump's order states. SDI indeed looked to develop space-based and non-kinetic interception capabilities that many critics dismissed as figments of science fiction. The initiative was referred to often derisively as Reagan's Star Wars program. Trump's concept for a network of space-based interceptors bears a close resemblance to at least one SDI concept codenamed Brilliant Pebbles, which called for the deployment of potentially thousands of small satellites, each armed with interceptors to stop enemy ballistic missiles in the boost phase. There's more, but I just wanted to make the point that we've seen a lot of this already unveiled in Trump 1. We saw Space Force get launched with a lot of gears. We heard all these stories about technologies that are already aloft that we needed to get control of, because these things overhead could be turned against us and become a problem. We also heard about things like rods from God. We also heard boom over and over and over, right? Well, all we have to do is look around a little bit to see that boom supersonic is not a figment of imagination, and we know that whatever plane the president is on is Air Force One, not the duck they have painted a certain color blue, or its decoy, right? That's what they put the news crew on, and then they wake up in the middle of the night and go, "Where are we? Somewhere in Greece?" They don't know if the president's on that plane. He's already there already. Anyway, I wanted to leave those ideas in your head. It's going to be a fun run. We're just a few weeks in, and already it's crazy days. Just remember, much of this is far beyond our control. We can cheer from the side, or we can jeer from the side. We can encourage, and we can throw apples. But what we really have to focus on is what we really can control. Let's make our lives rich. Let's spend our lives with those who love us, and let's teach those who need to know so that they can prepare themselves for unknown seasons ahead. From the beautiful shores of the free state of Florida, this is BACFA. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for Atomic Biscuits. Tune in again next week for more news and music. Check out BACFA on Gab at BACFA, as well as Bitchute, Rumble, D-Live and Odysee. Check out LastScoutRadio.com for fun content. Listen to WBN 324 on radio stations around the world, on many streaming platforms, and World Broadcasting Network WBN 324.zil.